Hello, Edir. Whew. So your video on the ZBD system, great content. Thank you. I hope you found it useful and that I don't know, it allows you to get started with Zig. Okay, so in here's what I'm gonna do now. I'm implementing iframe, and I need to implement parsing for our pesky attribute that has this delicious syntax here. So um, we're implementing this grammar. So yeah, let's go have fun. Hey, French Sardo, thank you for the $5 to the ZSF. Thank you very much. By the way, since you are a donor, you might be interested in knowing that we're about to publish uh, the new financial report um, in just a few days from now. In any case, thank you for the $5. So value. I was wondering the 0.15 one is out, but GitHub shows latest release as 0.14. Um, I think that it's simply that Enu didn't make a release on GitHub. I would just not consider GitHub the, authoritative source of that kind of information. Does Zine still use the Zigbee system for building and caching? Nope, not anymore. Zine is now completely standalone. You can use it with the build system if you want to, but it's an optional integration thing that is just there in case that you are generating things with the build system and you want, an easy way of integrating the two things together. But no, not at all anymore. Zine is a standalone executable now. Well, ignore the fact that it says that this is a debug build because I'm just using a debug build for me locally. But like you just run it locally. Let me show you. Let's go to zinessg.io. I run Zine, and it starts the development server. You open page, and you're getting the preview that automatically reloads, the usual stuff. And then if you want to build your website, you do Zine release, and and you get an error actually, because in my case, so I'm trying to output to the public directory, but it's not empty, and so now you're getting an error. So you have to use force if you want to put files in a non-empty directory, because people were getting like surprised by the fact that the old content wasn't getting cleaned, and so they could still find like stale files in there, but at the same time having the tool delete recursively directories for you, it's kind of a dangerous thing to do. So long story short, that this is the solution. So you pass -f if your output directory is not empty, and you might notice that it's also pretty fast. Like this is building the Zine website every time I run this. Also, I should add, there is no caching anymore. I want to add it back, but the point is, I haven't re-implemented it yet, because to implement caching, I would need to implement, all the things that I was getting for free from the build system. I would have to implement, and it turns out that it's so fast that this doesn't even matter. Like this is really fast, and this is a debug build, by the way. Uh-oh, we have a failure in building 3-seater. God damn it. Okay, so I have I've been updating versions of Zig, so there's some stuff that might not be completely up to date with the latest Zig stuff, which is annoying. Or is this just a weird caching artifact? Why is this not showing me failures? Why am I not seeing the failure? What? Interesting. Well, let's see what happens. So Zine seems fine. Let's go back to the website. Yeah, there you go. Now it takes 8 milliseconds. So it's fast. I'm asking mostly because the caching story for the Zigbee system seems excellent. Yeah, and it is totally excellent. The problem is that the Zigbee system has caching that, how can I say, it makes total sense for the Zigbee system to have caching that works that way. It's just not a perfect fit for a static site generator. In my case, I have some things that I would like to some data dependency that I would like to opt into at runtime in a way that is just not possible with the Zigbee system. And I'm specifically talking about extra dependencies that get discovered as we execute scripty expressions. So, the templating logic. As we run templating logic, we discovered that, oh, now we're depending on this asset file. Now we're depending on this page. And I did implement some of that on top of the Zigbee system, but there were some limits that made everything a little bit too janky because I was trying basically to make it do something that it wasn't designed to do. So my conclusion is that a static site generator needs to have its own caching. There is no way around that. Like, you want that. It's important enough, and it's important enough for your use case that you need to have a tailored solution, like tailored to your use case. So yeah, it's not a big deal. I'm gonna re-implement it back. I can promise you that Zine will not have like false cache hits. Like, I have used in the past Hugo, where it would occasionally not update something because it would have a false cache hit. I can promise you this is never going to happen with Zine. But in any case, caching, you don't need this. Like, this is so fucking fast that the only case in which you might need caching is if you have a gigantic website. So if you have like truly a gigantic website, then yeah, caching is needed. And Zine right now will be potentially maybe annoying for you because your thing is, it's huge and you would like to do partial rebuilds, not have to rebuild everything every single time. But unless you're in that situation, yeah, you're not gonna miss caching. I can promise you. The Zig website, by the way, is also non-trivial. It's not huge, but it's not a trivial website, and it's still instant, even without caching. I read Hashimoto's recent blog post on tech nonprofits. How does Zig plan to reach out to more donors in the coming years? That is an open question. I would say that when it comes to the type of stuff that Mitchell talks about, we are pretty decent because we're not making it a secret that we need donations. We are, well, I mentioned earlier that we're about to release a new financial report for 2020, for the last year, so that would be 2024. And we've done one a year before and before then, so we do communicate that information. Donating to the ZSF is not hard. There's plenty of ways. So I think that we kind of are fine when it comes to most of the things that Mitchell talks in that blog post. Then the question of, how do you actively reach for new donors? Like, how do you get more people, let's say more big donors to donate to you? That is still maybe an open question that I don't have a specific answer to. Except the usual, the obvious hand wavy stuff of, as the project becomes more prominent and adopted and useful, then there would be more people that use Zig, and so that would bring us more visibility, and that means more donations. Our donations have been going up. No, our donations have not been going up. Our donations have been going down. But donations that come from people doing the the what's called like donation matching at work has increased. So I suspect this is not a one-to-one thing; it's a proxy. But I suspect that there's more people using Zig at work, way more than there was before, and you even see that reflected in that kind of donation. But yeah. I had an idea of including Zig code compiled to WebAssembly and just wondering how this could be part of the build. I would love to be able to have inline Zig snippets be compiled in the process. Sorry, Christopher, are you still talking about Zine somehow, or are you talking about something else? Is your point that you would like to have Zig snippets that work as, templating logic that you build to WASM, and that can get used by Zine? Or is this like your own project where you want to do this type of stuff? Well, you know what? I think I can answer, in any case, I can answer the question for both cases. For your own project, you can totally do that. Yeah. For Zine specifically, I don't know exactly what that will look like. But what you describe is reasonable and probably at least similar to what I think I will do. So, but to be clear, for Zine to be able to run WebAssembly code, it needs a WebAssembly interpreter. So I would have to bundle a WebAssembly interpreter in Zine itself. And that is not done yet. But when that happens, more like, say, a blog post that has inline Zig and it also gets part of the post. Oh, I see. Like you run it online, like playground type of thing. Oh, that makes total sense. Understood. Today, I don't think this is possible with Zine. But it's definitely something that I am interested in covering sooner than later. Although, you know what? I say that it's not possible with Zine, but it's a bit more nuanced than that. So let me put it this way. So, by the way, this ties also to the question of when are we going to have a Zig playground on the Zig website? It's at least in part the same answer. So you can have a code snippet that you tag with Zig, and you can have a WebAssembly build of the Zig compiler. And so you can have some JavaScript glue code that, in any case, to be able to run WebAssembly, you need to have JavaScript on. So doing some work with JavaScript is, how can I say, it's fine because you have to have it there anyway. So you can have a piece of JavaScript code that basically for every code snippet that has language equals Zig, you add another box below where you load that snippet into a file and you build it and you show, the result of compiling it or running it. Maybe you need, by the way, we have a similar thing that we do with the Zig website. Now that I think about it, maybe that's what you were referring to. Okay, you know what? I'll point that out also after I'm done with this. But the point is, you can have this stuff happen with a WebAssembly build of the compiler. The problem today is that the WebAssembly build of the compiler that you can get is not going to be fully functional because the WebAssembly backend, as far as I'm aware, I'm not super up to date with it, so I might be lagging behind a little bit. But the last time I checked, it wasn't complete enough. It didn't cover all behavior tests. So you could, I don't know how easily, but you could definitely write a Zig program that you try to compile in your web browser, and it can't compile because there's a piece missing in the WebAssembly backend. Maybe you're trying to do something with vectors, just as an idea. A Zig snippet, for example, generate an SVG while being able to see the code to guarantee it to be in sync. Okay, understood. So that part already exists. It's just not, how can I say, it's not integrated in Zine. So if you're looking for a pure Zine experience for that, Unfortunately, not quite there yet. I am interested in it, but you can totally pull it off. Case in point, if you go to ziglang.org, guess what? You see this code snippet, and you see this output. This is not fake. This is the actual output of running this. And same in learn, I don't know, like build system. When you see outputs, they are from actually running the command for real. Actually, you know what? Maybe in the build system one, some are faked. I don't remember which one. Some are maybe a little bit fake. But in general, also in the in-depth overview, you see the actual output. Like you see how this one says home CI actions runner website work www.ziglang.org. That's because this is running in the actions runner website agent in our CI system. So you can take a look at the Zig website to see how we pull it off. But to make a long story short, the way it works is that we have a tool called doctest that takes these sample files that have a comment at top that says, I take this snippet and run it as a test, build it, or build and then execute it, and expect success or expect failure. Like some of these are expected to fail. Like you see this one, integer overflow. This one is expected to fail completion. So with the comment at the top of this file says, as you compile it, expect a compile failure that has this message somewhere. And so, well, if that doesn't happen, then we get a build failure in the website. So there used to be a time back when I had just joined where people would complain that the code snippets on the website would go out of sync with the language. They don't anymore because we test them. So this is already a thing. The only problem is that you have to manually create a file, wire that into the build system, and then reference this as an asset in Zine. While instead, it would be cool, if you could just do this entirely from Zine, maybe having the snippet literally embedded in the markdown file. That would be totally cool. It's just not there yet. One thing that struck me about the Hashimoto blog was goals. Anyone familiar with the GitHub knows what's being worked on, but I wonder if a more friendly list of goals about upcoming features on the main website would help. No, I don't think so, because if somebody cares about this stuff, if somebody is genuinely invested in this stuff, they will know about it, kind of like you mentioned. If it's just somebody passerby, then what they will want is not knowledge of what's going on. What they will want is resource allocation. So instead of sending a unrestricted donation, they will say, oh, I want to donate towards this goal. I want to donate to get this thing done. And donating to get a specific thing done is problematic. We don't want donations of that kind, generally speaking. I mean, of course, it's better than nothing, I guess. But those are a problematic form of donation that we don't really like. I'll tell you a secret, which is not really secret, but for example, the idea of donor bounties, it's not because we like donor bounties. It's just a way of basically channeling energy from people that are excited about a specific thing and that have disposable income that they would like to donate to get the thing that they want done faster. But it's easy for them to get frustrated because their priority is not our priority. So donor bounties are kind of a way of negotiating that in a way that is, not hostile. But people will know about what's being worked on. Like I think that once, for example, incremental is actually usable by people, that would be cool. But I don't think that having, like, if we were to change the website to have at the top a list of goals about upcoming features, I don't think that would make any difference in donations whatsoever. What I think would actually makes the biggest difference probably in absolute terms is getting more people like Mitchell interested in Zig, which means not talking about promises, um, or rather, I mean, there is also some of that, I guess. But my point is, you want to get somebody who's looking for a technology that can help them, you know, create some a piece of super high quality software that they care about and that they really want to be the best they can make it, like Mitchell with Ghosty. And that person understands the Zig message. They get involved with Zig. They understand what's going on. They understand also where the language in which direction the language is steering them towards. Um, and and then if they are somebody who has money, then they can donate money if they want to. I think that makes a difference most of all. If you think about it, that's kind of, for example, the what's happening with Tiger Beetle and Ban, for example. Tiger Beetle has invested in Zig because they they do make use of Zig. Like, they would be able to make Tiger Beetle also with other languages, of course. Um, but they are getting some mileage out of Zig in a way they wouldn't be getting as much mileage pretty much from any other language, in my opinion. So so for them it becomes that kind of stuff. Ghosty is similar in a sense that Ghosty could totally happen with a language that isn't Zig, but still Zig is I'm sure that Mitchell is getting a good amount of mileage out of Zig when making Ghosty. So I think that as the language stabilizes, as more critical features become generally available, then there will be more people of this kind that picks up Zig and becomes willing to donate. Um, the three upcoming features are going to be key for this. They're like really the last big missing pieces for like getting a next level experience with Zig. I'm talking about incremental, async IO, like finally having a fully good IO story that would be great, and then lastly, fuzzing. So once we have these, Zig will be really well positioned to be the language for high quality software. Not the only one, of course, but definitely one up there that has compelling features to give you if that's what you're looking for. For example, right now I'm writing this language server and I am actually kind of feeling the pain that I don't have good fuzzing available to me because AFL, I should try AFL again, but the last time I checked, AFL was absolutely regressed because of LLVM. Like, LLVM made some changes that completely broke AFL. So I don't know. It sucks that you can't trust your fuzzer to do proper um, code coverage, to be properly code coverage guided. So yeah. Okay, so we start with a feature identifier, which is one or more alpha digit and dash. I actually might be wrong with this because so there's this guy. What the fuck does RWS mean? WS white space. R remaining white space? I still don't get the point of Zig. It's less stupid of a C replacement than Go, but I just don't get it. I would not consider Go a replacement for C. I heard plenty of arguments, some of which, I think there is a case where you can make an argument that Go could be considered a replacement for C from a certain perspective. But generally speaking, I would not consider Go a replacement for C because Go is a language that has a garbage collector, runtime stuff going on. It's hostile to C. It's hostile to C-level APIs. Like you can do FFI, but it's not great. And maybe hostile is too strong of a word, but it definitely doesn't. It kind of wished it didn't have to do interop with C. And that is very different. It is very different because when you're using C, you have access to everything. Every OS API, every dynamic library, maybe not every piece of code out there, but every big and important piece of code has a C interface or close to. So Go kind of wants to be its own, separate world. And while in C, you're kind of like a master of the universe type of sense. Go is ostensibly Google's C++ replacement, but not a Java one, although it certainly took off as a Java replacement internally at Google. I mean, but because if that's what I would describe it. Go, to me, exists in the same space as Java, C#, and it's better than those other alternatives because it has like less enterprise insanity in it. But I mean, you can't trust the Go people to really know what Go is for because they used to say that it was a systems programming language, if you remember, which is laughable because it's not. And then it took them a long time to realize that Go is basically a language for making web services. That's actually the one thing it's good at more than anything else. So in any case, as far as, okay, setting aside Go, you know what Go is or isn't, who cares? As for what is the point of Zig? What is the point of Zig? The point of Zig is that you want to make good software where good means that you're making something where performance is important and /or system integration is important. And so you want to make sure that you never get stuck in either of those cases, and then you get access to all the things that you could do, even if sometimes that requires you to do some work, but like you can pull it off if it's worth enough for you doing it. So for example, Ghosty is a terminal emulator that wants to feel native on every platform. So how does it achieve that? Well, it means that on macOS, it needs to have a Swift skeleton that uses Swift APIs in the systems. Swift like frameworks in the system to achieve a native feeling. But then the core logic can't be Swift because Swift is not portable. Apple likes to lie about Swift being portable, but it's fucking not. It's ass on other platforms that aren't Mac. So what does Mitchell do? Mitchell writes the core logic in Zig, and then it uses interop to connect to the Swift API outside. And then on Linux, the problem presents itself again. How do you look and feel native on Linux? And I don't know, that starts becoming kind of a philosophical question because what even is native on Linux. But in any case, Linux has its own set of challenges. The latest of which is the G-object stuff. So they redid what's it called, the GTK implementation. In any case, Linux has its own version of like the UI thingies with its own APIs. GTK has a weird object-oriented runtimey thing called G-object. In any case, they have their own insanity, so you have to adapt to that, and that's what they did. And then, well, they haven't touched Windows yet, but they will have basically to repeat the experience a third time for Windows at the very least. So that's how they do it. In my case specifically, I'm writing this language server. And why do I like Zig? Well, there's a few things that I'm doing that I like a lot. One, for example, is that I'm taking the same application and I can build it for WebAssembly very easily in a way that I don't think even Rust can. Just to give you an idea, this is my main function, basically. Where's main? Main function. And I switch on all these subcommands, one of which is LSP. And so LSP is implemented in here, and LSP has its own, it's called run. It's like the entry point, basically. After I parse the LSP subcommand, I give the remaining arguments to this guy, which it doesn't care about. Other arguments will do more argument parsing, but LSP specifically doesn't have any argument. And then it starts the language server. And that's how I run my language server from Helix as a CLI tool. But then there is VS Code. And in VS Code, you make people download an extension. So I make people download an extension. Where is it? Super HTML. And the extension bundles the language server. So the way I do that is I build the extension, like my code for WebAssembly. I bundle it with the extension, and then I run it inside of VS Code directly. In the past, I didn't have this. Well, VS Code wasn't able to run WebAssembly, WASI specifically, inside of it. So basically the extension would try to find the CLI tool in your system. Now it doesn't do that anymore because we have the WebAssembly version. What does the WebAssembly version look like? It looks like this. It's literally the same LSP code. The only difference is that I use a WASM specific allocator that I pass to it. This is literally the only difference. Once the standard library will be complete enough, and there's going to be like a default allocator that does the obvious thing of giving you a allocator that works with WebAssembly when you're targeting WebAssembly, I don't think I will even need this extra line of code. And this is cool. This is cool because it's a one line change, and boom, I have WebAssembly WASI support. Can you compile WebAssembly with Rust? Yes. But if I remember correctly, Rust depends on libc, which means that you need a libc for WASM. So I guess you need to download a piece of toolchain to get access to that stuff. And then you're I don't know, what are you using? mscriptm? I don't know which libc you guys are getting. In any case, I'm sure that you can pull it off. I'm not saying that you can't. Like, all of these things can be done with Rust for sure. But the thing is, it's very trivial. It's nice that it's very trivial. Then what else am I getting out of this? Other things that I'm getting out of this is performance, as in doing multi-array list. That's like a struct of array type of stuff, or Duff's machine. So this is a new change in Zig, but now you can do scripty. You can do this type of stuff. So usually when you have a tokenizer, you have a while loop that keeps going to the next character, and you have a big switch case where you switch state as you look at characters. But notice one thing: there's no while loop here. Why? Because now switches in Zig can do this thing where you give a label to the switch, and then you can continue to that label with a new value. Basically, the first time we enter the switch, we start with the, well, start state. But then as we continue, we change states instead of modifying a state variable and then looping again. But, well, obviously it's, so what is the difference? Why do this thing? Is like, are you saving yourself a few keystrokes? Is it just cooler? No. The point is that whenever you are branching statically, so you see how in this case, we are branching directly into the identifier case, these can all be written down, like the generated machine code can be more efficient than what you get if you always go through a while loop and a side effect. Sometimes the while loop, the side effect loop plus while loop, I guess, can be optimized by the compiler, but not always. And this one is like very explicit. It's literally saying, okay, like now from here, we can go to the identifier state, etc., etc. So you can also do this with runtime information. Like here, we're passing down some runtime information, but in any case, this thing makes tokenizers now that I've seen benchmarked before and after this change. There was like a 60+ percentage change in performance when it comes to the tokenizer, which, to be clear, is not a 60% performance change in programs, because tokenization is a small percentage of total runtime normally. So it's not huge, in this grand scheme of things. But when it comes to tokenizing specifically, this is very nice. Absolutely very nice. Now, we don't have async or native fuzzing yet, but once the native fuzzing will be in, also the ability to say, well, yeah, I'm able to fuzz my stuff is going to be nice. But then again, this is not to say that you're not going to be able to do that in Rust. I'm just saying, in general, this is going to be another nice thing of Zig. One last thing that I think is going to be relevant that you don't get from Rust is reusable async code. Hello, Jim. So the new async story in Zig is going to be pretty cool, because you are going to be able, like you were before, this is just like basically reintroducing these old ideas just with a more polished implementation. But the idea is that you will be able to write code that you can use both in blocking and in async mode, and it's going to be the same library. You're not going to need like an async and a blocking version of the same thing. And that's going to be pretty nice. So these are the kind of things, whether that is enough or not for you to care. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe not. But I'm having a good time. This fits my brain really well, and I'm able to make good quality software in a way that I would not be able otherwise. So if that doesn't make a difference for you, like if this is not the type of stuff that fits your brain well, then I don't know, leave it there. That doesn't matter. But if it does, it's cool. I feel like that some of the other projects that I mentioned, they are probably the authors also feel that same way. I can't speak for them specifically because I'm not them. But I suspect that both for Mitchell and probably Yoran, Zig kind of has this role, which again, it's not strictly a matter of, pure language capability, but also a matter of just how the tool feels in your hand. And there's one last thing. Oh, yeah. About the stuff that I'm doing right now, here's a nice thing that I'm doing that I don't know if I would be able to do the same way in Rust. Probably yes, but I suspect in a more difficult way. Let me see if I can find you an example. So, well, iframe. I was looking at iframe, and iframe has this rule. If the item prop attribute is specified on an iframe element, then the source attribute must also be specified. So the way it works is that I have an iterator that keeps parsing attributes. As I find an attribute, I look at the bytes, like at the actual string that the attribute corresponds to, like the name. And then I match that name with a hash map, basically, of those names. And for each one of those names, I have implementations on rules to validate for them. So, for example, if I find an attribute that has whose name is height, by the way, the match has to be case insensitive because this is delicious HTML. And then I have a rule called non-negative integer, which basically automatically, like I've implemented it once and then I reuse it a bunch of times, but it's saying, yeah, this attribute needs to parse as a non-negative integer. So like an integer that is greater than 0. So this is fine. But then, so you have a hash map. And now you want to know, here I need to know if I have encountered a source attribute. So I could do the matching and then I could say, wait, is the string that I just got the source string? So I could do a second string comparison and it would totally work. And I would know at that point that I found a source attribute. But instead, I don't do that. You know what I do? I do this work only once at comp time. At comp time, here at comp time, I look at all the entries in that inside that set, and I grab the index of that entry, and I'm able to write what the index is. How can I say? Not just like by hard coding the number somewhere, but I can just like ask this question at comp time. So there is like extra work that happens when compiling, but it does allow me to say, yeah, please just tell me what the index is of source. This gets resolved at comp time, and then the comparison is that I don't have to compare the string source again. And instead, I just compare that the index of the entry that I got is the same of the index that I know at comp time corresponds to source. And so, no, this is a comparison between numbers instead of being a comparison between strings. And these type of tricks you can put everywhere in Zig, and it's very lightweight to have those. Can you do this in Rust? I am fairly certain there are ways for you to get this working in Rust. Can you do it with the same level of simplicity? I suspect not, because this type of stuff requires to do fancy metaprogramming in Zig. Also, and I said fancy, but you know what? Syntax-wise, it's not fancy. It's not fancy at all. Here's the funny thing. Also, look at this. I have a compile error. So if you put the wrong string in quotes here, you get a compile error that says, sorry, I can't find a comp time the index of this string. And it's a nice error. So I like leveraging this a lot. I think that in Rust, this would probably have to be some kind of macro. And I don't like macros. I really do not like macros. I've been thinking a bit about the new async and FoundationDB. Seems like some interesting ability to incorporate their client's event loop with Zig. Do you think you can make better software? I don't know enough about how FoundationDB works. Like, I know the high-level picture, but I never used it, so I don't know specifically how that would look like. With regards to async and FoundationDB, I can tell you, though, that with the right async IO implementation, you can have deterministic testing of stuff, and that would be cool, I think. Kelly's latest talk showed how the new writer IO does fewer syscalls, more optimizations than Rust for memory. Well, more specifically, what he was saying is it's not doing fewer syscalls. No, you do fewer syscalls by buffering. So in his case, he was doing IO, and you do fewer syscalls in IO by buffering. And that happens both in Zig and Rust and C and other languages. But then there's a question of if your IO interface, if your reader and writer are interfaces, are runtime interfaces with pointers, function pointers that you have to dereference to get to the concrete implementation that does the reading or writing. Let's say writing. Let's just stick to writing for simplicity. Then what you would want is for a buffered write to not have to go to the concrete implementation. And instead, you would like that to be, you like a buffered write to stay in the buffer. For the buffer, to stay above that function pointer, so that you only chase the function pointer once the buffer is full or once it's time to flush. And he was saying that this is not achieved everywhere. Some languages do that, some languages don't. Rust specifically generally doesn't. There are ways of making it work depending on how you wrap basically, instead of doing a dynamic writer on the outside, you do a dynamic writer on the inside, and then you wrap that in a buffered writer. So if you pass around a concrete buffer writer, then you will be hitting the buffer without having to go through the dynamic trait. But I believe that people don't do that much. Most people don't really care, so they just pass around dynamic writers, and that's the end of it. Which means that the buffer writer will be after the function pointer, but at the same time, Rust is very good at devirtualizing. So most of the time, well, I don't know if most of the time. I actually really don't know. But basically, if you don't do that thing across crate boundaries, then you are pretty much guaranteed to get devirtualization happening. And so even if you accept a dynamic writer, you will not pay the price for the fact that it's a runtime interface. But if you do that across crate boundaries, then that optimization gets lost. That was the story. And then C has something similar, because file in C is the thing that holds a writer. But the problem is that the standard library in C, which contains the file definition, is in a different compilation unit than your code. And so it's kind of like, quote unquote, as if it is across crate boundaries. And so you don't get that optimization, I guess, unless you do LTO. But at the same time, standard libraries normally get shipped in precompiled state. So like Zig ships standard library source codes. Like whenever, like if you build a C program for the first time in Zig and you link libc, then you will see the first time that you are compiling also the libc from scratch. But that's not what you see with Clang, for example, because Clang gives you a pre-built version of the standard library for your architecture, which, by the way, is a problem for cross compilation, because that's one of the reasons why Clang can't do cross compilation out of the box, while Zig can. In any case, this is the story. So I don't know, is it worth it or not? I guess it depends on who you are. So a policy directive is a serialized policy directive, which is a feature identifier, a space, and an allow list. So the space has to be there. So this is more like invalid. And invalid utter value? Oh, come on. Has a reason. Reason is missing allow list. Okay. So here we are past this. So we expect to find a space. So if it's different than a space, although it doesn't have to be a space, I think it could be also a new line. Any white space, I think it's fine. So I think it's more like if SED mem index of scalar U8 slice is gonna be SED ASCII dot white space. So if this is null, this is an error. We can still say missing allow list. Well, no, this is a problem. This is more like, this should be a space. Or invalid character. Or you know what? We just don't say anything for the reason. I think that's fine. Let's see. I think my biggest beef with Zig is that it doesn't try to solve the ownership lifetime problem. Or if it does, I don't understand how it does that. The ownership lifetime problem is something that you feel way less if you stop thinking about the lifetime of things as the lifetime of an individual thing and instead start thinking more about classes of things, like groups of things all at once. So so to give you my answer, for me personally, this is not something that I find is a pain to think about or something that slows me down at all, which doesn't mean that I always get it perfectly right, but it means that, you know, as I'm writing a program, I never get stuck thinking, oh shit, now I have to think about the lifetime management of this thing. So let me take like 2 hours to think this through. And then after I do the design, then I go and implement it. And then I need to debug it. And then, oh, now it's done. And I can finally go back to continue making my thing. Not at all. I almost never think about this stuff because it usually takes care of itself in an extremely trivial way. So, for example, I'm making an AST. What does the lifetime of my things look like in the AST? Well, it turns out that my AST is a bunch of nodes, and they all go inside of a single array list, which I guess in Rust would be a vector. For me, the AST is a vector of nodes and a vector of errors. So how does management of that lifetime look like? It looks like this. You have an init function, and we try to build the AST. And so I make an array list of nodes, an array list of errors, and I guess also have a string hash map of scene attributes that I use for detecting duplicated attributes. And I keep resetting this. Like every time I look at a new HTML element, I fill it up and then I reset it when the next one comes. So how does it look like? Well, I have an array list and I keep adding stuff to it. If something goes terribly wrong and we return, I have defer the init. So I free the memory for this array list on an error. And unless an error happens, then nodes and errors, this guy, look at this. This guy gets freed unconditionally. So even in the case of success, we get rid of this guy because it was just necessary for the building process. And then the AST holds onto these two guys. And then the AST will have its own the init function if it needs to. That's mostly like this. This is kind of the same for most of my programs. So, you know, the node doesn't have its own destructor that does weird things because like the node itself doesn't track much data. Like all of it, it's basically embedded inside of it. It doesn't have like copies of strings or weird shit going on because you don't want to do that for performance anyway. And so basically, as long as you keep performance in mind and you don't do useless stuff, most of the time you don't create much data. And so managing it is trivial. Look, this is the init for my AST. You free nodes, you free errors. End of it. Language server. Let's look at the language server because it's more interesting. There's more allocations involved in the language server. So in the language server, let's look at, for example, the completions case. So when you do completions, it's more complicated because you have to create strings and do things. But here's how it works. The language server has this system where for every callback every time you have to reply to a request, you are provided an arena allocator. Every allocation, since this is a very well-defined loop where you receive a request, you build a reply, you serialize the reply, you send it over the network, and then after that, every intermediate allocation is not necessary anymore. So what happens is that we use an arena allocator. I don't track every individual. Like here, you see that I allocate this stuff, but I don't even try to free. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Also, in the other cases, sometimes I use strings that are string literals. So like they are embedded in the executable. Some other times I will allocate strings. I will format a string at runtime. It doesn't matter because it goes in the arena. So we return the response, and then the code that handles this thing will serialize it and reset the arena. And here's the funny thing: resetting the arena is not even a free. Resetting the arena is just pulling back a counter to 0. And so we don't even return this memory to the system. We reuse it, which is way more efficient. So again, doing the efficient thing makes you not have to worry about any of this stuff. Now, can you get a crash because you have a double free? Oh yeah, totally. I had those. I will have those probably in the future. So you can totally get it wrong, and then can be, I don't know. Well, it's a thing. So first of all, it is a thing. You can get it wrong, and you can get a seg fault or reading garbage data, but it's not something that worries me too much. Now, if I was doing, I don't know, you're writing the web service for the bank system, and if you get something wrong, then all the money gets stolen. Maybe wanting to avoid that problem maybe would make me want to not use Zig, because that's a bad thing if it happens and if somebody steals all the money. But well, in my case, concretely, right now, that's not what I'm doing. And it's not like it's not like I'm doing toy programs. I'm not doing toy programs, and still I do not need that level of guarantee. And in practice, it just doesn't hinder me. I am making tons of progress. I would even say that if you go back to iframe, not being able to do this, not being able to easily do the comp time, find the index of this string thing, and then turn a string comparison into an integer comparison, not being able to do this would be more of a hindrance than the memory allocation stuff. The reason I like how Rust does, what Rust does isn't inherently to make me a better programmer. It's because I don't trust other programmers, and it keeps them on the rails. I don't use any Rust. I can use any Rust and be assured Rust's borrow checker kept that code safe. I can't inherently do that with Zig. I guess you can't. If you ask me, have I suffered from using dependencies that crash on me all the time? The answer is yes, but those are C dependencies. I have 2 C dependencies, and both are weird. 3-seater and the official markdown parser. Now, those 2 things are both weird. I think the answer in my case is that most of my dependencies are my code. So, all my bugs belong to me. So if something goes out of whack, it's usually my fault. And I did that to myself. And so I go and fix it. But in general, there's also a question of how many dependencies do you want to use. I think that it's correct to say that Rust has a culture of using more dependencies than you would in Zig normally. I can't speak for everybody. I'm sure out there's somebody doing Zig who is only gluing dependencies together. But in general, you tend to do things on your own way more than depending on other people's code in Zig than in Rust. So I guess my point is, the reason why I'm saying this is that your concern might very well be true. And the reason why I'm not feeling it is because I don't depend on as much third-party code. I do depend on some, but not a ton. The majority is my code. So yeah. That said, again, if the code is if the code is low quality and does a bunch of random stuff that makes no sense and it keeps crashing, then it's just bad all in all. But if it's good code, so you shouldn't depend on it in the first place. But if it is good code that is trying to do things efficiently, then what I mentioned earlier still applies. Like the person that makes an efficient implementation of something will use array lists, will use arena locators, will not use quote unquote malloc, like general purpose individual item allocation, unless they have to. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, it's not going to be a big deal going forward. It's easier to edit code when you need to juggle less code flows in your head. I disagree in the sense that memory safety by itself is nowhere near enough to make a dependency good quality. Like if I'm looking at a dependency, for a project that I'm opinionated about, right? So you're doing random shit, okay, fine, whatever. But if you're doing something that you care about, like for my language server, for example, here's an example. For my language server, somebody was suggesting the other day that there was a Rust crate that has all the HTML definitions in it. And they were saying, why are you not using that? And my answer is, well, first of all, I'm not using Rust. So like, why would I add a dependency on another language just to get some HTML metadata? But on top of that, I'm sorry, I don't trust the people that make that crate. I not because they are bad or anything, but because I care about what I'm doing so much, and I just want to get it really right and do it myself and touch every single constraint, every single weird feature, that every single weird sub-language parser that I have to make sure that everything is done exactly to my standard of quality. So basically, auditing that third-party dependency would be an amount of work roughly equivalent to just doing the fucking work myself. So I guess my point is that when I look at a dependency, I'm not just gonna look at that whether that thing crashes or not. Which, by the way, you can also do in an automated fashion. If your worry is just whether it does invalid memory accesses or not, sure, having the borrow checker, it's great because it doesn't even freaking compile. But even without that, if you have fuzzing and valgrind, you can test this. You can totally test this, and like have the tooling basically tell you that. But in practice, I would want to see if it uses smart algorithms, if it doesn't do needless work, if it handles corner cases correctly, if it gives me enough context, when maybe there's an error, it gives me enough context so that I can then resurface that information to the user with a nice error message, assuming that I have to. Like in this case, for example, my parsers here, they have these errors where I point you at the substring in the attribute value where you made a mistake. Like, let me show you. Say that you are using access key. Access key takes a series of letters that basically the browser will make keybinds for selecting the corresponding element. So you can do, for example, I don't know, like C. If I put C in here, then the browser, it's not like fixed in stone, like it depends on the OS and the browser, but like let's say that on macOS, then the browser will be able to say, yeah, you press Command C and that puts focus on this canvas element. It would be more useful like for a search bar, for example. But in any case, you can put more than one, but they have to be spaced. There have to be spaces between them. And if you put two in a row or you put a duplicated one, you see, duplicate one is a syntax error. So I tell you, invalid value for this attribute, duplicate token. And you see the error points at the exact thing that is wrong. So I'm doing this. And so I don't know, the third party library that I'm using to do, I don't know, something like, let's imagine like a third party library that does parsing for this stupid syntax, for this stupid attribute that I'm doing right now. It would have to pass all these mail checks. No, like, well, sorry, not even mail checks. It would have to pass all these checks, which is all way past whether it poops itself with memory management or not. Also, the reality is that specifically when it comes to a parser library, you don't have memory management errors usually because it's trivial. Anyway. Go is the language I use when I only give 80% of shit. Oh man. Hello, C3PO. So, you know, here's suggestion. Is the music some host? Yes, it's from Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance. Actually, I think I put it on the Zine website. Also on the Zine website, I linked to this talk that I gave at System Distributed. Can we see the thingy? No, we can't because it started playing automatically. Why do YouTube videos start playing automatically? Think about this for a moment. About how fucking Chrome works. Websites should not be able to play any audio when you open them before receiving a user interaction. Does anybody remember this? Have you ever tried to make like music that autoplays or a video that autoplays on a website, and then it turns out that it cannot be done unless there is a user interaction first? And then YouTube is able to do this, like you saw it right now, right? It started playing immediately. No, it does not fake user interaction. It's not fakeable. Like the browser, it's a security feature in browsers, and you can't fake user interaction. The browser knows when it's a real user interaction or not. It's different. HTML5 video and audio aren't held to that standard. I don't think we have a video in here, do we? Oh, I wish I could right click. I don't think this is a video. Oh, it is a video. Never mind. It is a video, but I'm not sure. I don't think you're right. I don't think you're right with this. I think the rule still stays. I think it's just that Chrome special cases YouTube. YouTube doesn't change websites. No, what I was saying is that I open a link, right, and the video plays immediately, but normally that is not the case. I suspect, copy link, I suspect that if I take Firefox and I go to that same page now, opening Firefox has killed my KVM. I cannot believe this. Why is it always such a disappointment? Oh, there we go. Now it returned. No, I lost my clipboard. Copy link to highlight. No, I just copy link address. Oh my God. This other stupid browser. So let's see what happens if we go there like this. Okay, so once YouTube is done going insane and it reloads the page for the third time, you see that the video doesn't play automatically. Firefox will also autoplay unless you have it disabled. where do I have it? Where do I enable or disable it? Autoplay is allowed if video is muted or without audio. Yep. But it's not muted by default. Like you also could hear the sound on the other one. About preferences. Okay, so you can add overrides, but I never had to do this with Chrome. My point is that Chrome automatically allows its stupid website. Let's see about preferences. Preferences. Okay, so there's autoplay in here. Hi, Jim. Have a nice day. Well, in any case, fuck all that. But wait, what I wanted to say is that, yeah, in any case, in this talk about like how I look at dependencies when it comes to Zine, and I don't know if anybody's interested, go check it out if you haven't. You might like it, maybe. Index of scalar. So it has to be white space, otherwise we don't like it. So pause plus equals 1. Although it's not just 1, it has to be at least more than 1. You know what? Index of scalar is a bad idea. What we need to do is advance past white space. I did this wrong. Let's do it right. So we basically want another one of these guys where we say, okay, while pause is lower than len, we want to do the white space thing. So this actually is white space. There we go. There we go. So if it's white space, we continue. Otherwise, we break. The problem is, how do we guarantee that there is at least one? We need to guarantee that there is at least one. So maybe we do want this. Maybe we do want this. We want this check here. And then we want to go forward. Then we want to go forward. If there is nothing after white space, then yeah, we're missing in the allow list still. Okay, so after this, we are at the allow list. So what does that look like? What's the allow list? The allow list is a allow list value space allow list value. Okay, what's an allow list value? Permissions, a source expression, or star, or self, or source, or none. What is a permission source expression? Scheme source, host source. Oh, it's links. A host source is, so the scheme source is scheme part colon. A scheme part is scheme. Scheme is defined somewhere else. Okay, so we have like URL parsing. So it's either, let's say that it's a URL, or I'm simplifying this, but like it's a URL or a star or a self. Also, why is star quoted but not single quoted? Are the single quotes required to be there? The string self may be used as the origin in an allow list. When it is used this way, it will refer to the origin or the document which contains the permission policy. Are like, so they need to have the quote internally, I believe. So yeah, they are like, basically it's prefixed with a quote, I guess. Honestly, this is bad. because this ties into URL parsing, which, guess what, we've never done really well, because we always relied on the standard library URL parser, which is not fit for the job. So we're going to need to switch it with a different implementation, but we haven't done it yet. And here I have a to-do for it. So here's what I'm thinking. Then maybe we pause this, we leave it incomplete, but we add a to-do for it once we start working on a URL parser. And oh, you know what? I guess the idea could be that we just we do the rest. We assume that this is not going to be the case, and then and I don't know, we leave it a to do or something, and then we do all the other cases that are easier and that we can handle. So the way it works is this. So we are past this stuff. So now we're basically looking at parsing allow list values. And we parse allow list values by switching on the character that we're at. If it's a star, or if it's a quote, it's one of these cases. And the other case is going to be this one, which we don't implement. So let's go do this. So switch data at pause, star, what did I do wrong? That was weird. I think that was really weird. Anyway, we have the star, we have the single quote. Schema, host, case. This is the one that we are not going to implement. If it's star, then it's good because we are basically going back up there. Also, where's the semicolon? So one of these guys, allow list. If there's a space, there's another allow list value. So there is no space between that and the semicolon. Okay. So it means that after this, there might be a semicolon or not. So I guess we can do if data pause. If it's a semicolon, then we continue. But where do we continue? From the start, actually. Let's give it a label. Policy directive. Can we do this? It has to be a while. There we go. Now you'll find it. Policy directive, man. Policy directive. What's your problem? And there we go. Now it did find it, huh? Okay. So this is the policy directive loop. Perfect. What if instead we find a space in here? I guess this is a switch, maybe. There we go. So this is the allow list value loop. So if we have the start, it's literally just go to the next one because there's no other validation necessary. For this one, there's more work that we have to do. But this is really it. How can you comfortable with no line number? I don't know, man. What do you do with line numbers? By the way, I have a line number down here, and if I have to go to a line number, I can still do that by typing. And I've crashed my editor. Well, rip. That's sad. Well, apparently my editor sometimes crashes. I actually knew that. But it's fine. Okay, so if there is a quote, what do we do? Basically, we want to do this. Pause equals plus equals 1. Also, what if it's the end? Because here we're doing this, but we need to do this if pause greater or equal data.len. Return. Okay, so here we can do the increase, and then we do while pause lower than data.len if data pause is a single quote. Then we do something and then we break. Otherwise, we continue. So what is it that we do? Well, const start equals pause. And then here we do std mem.equal u8 data start pause. And I think we can start this out. Let's call it v. So if it's not source and now the adventure begins. Well, I don't remember how many cases there were. It's one of these cases. So let's see. Self source none. So invalid allow list value. And now we need to worry more about like positions and stuff. Let's start from the top because I think I didn't do a good job also even before. So we don't find a space. Hey Lawrence, what kind of data structure are you using for the errors and how do you render them at the right place on the LSP? Well, the strict answer to your question is disappointing because the data structure I'm using for errors is an array list of errors. So it's not very sophisticated. It's just literally a list of those things. But inside, they have a tag that tells you what kind of error it is. So it's like a union, a tagged union, where the enum case tells you, well, the main error message. And then some of them have extra payloads that add context to what's going on. Some of them have like a reason expressed as a string because there's like a bunch of different reasons why we got into that situation. Some other things have like, for example, missing child means that a given element, for example, details required to have a summary inside. And so here we say we can use the enum of all elements to say, yeah, this is what's missing dot summary. And then I have a formatting function that prints each one of these guys in the right way. But then the magic, so what I think you were referring to, happens here mostly. It's main location. Basically, as I deal with the source code, I have offsets into it. So I know not only the bytes that I'm, like the contents of the attribute value that I'm looking at, but I also know at which offset all this stuff starts in the document. And you will see me now make this code correct. So you know what? I'll show you what it looks like right now, and then I'm gonna make it better bit by bit. So I think as is already pretty decent. So give me a sec though, because this is there. So we want to do pause plus equals 1 here. Okay. Okay, iframe. Did we wire it in? Yes, so it's wired here. It is not wired here. Okay, so I wired in all the attributes and stuff. I think I have my own function in any case, right? Yeah, I also have my own function. Okay, cool. So let's make some mistakes and let's look at these error messages. Also, let's fix compile errors if there's any first. There aren't. Cool. Restart the LSP. So we're looking at iframe. Wait, iframe is not void? It doesn't have a body, but it's not void. Oh, God. Fine. So we're looking at allow. Allow is the one that has those weird rules. So invalid value for this attribute, missing allow list. That's fine. Put some spaces. It complains about everything on all spaces. That's fine. Let's do the things. So it was like foo bar. Invalid value for this attribute, missing allow list. So this is now wrong because this initial part is fine. What it's complaining about is that we don't have a space followed by like a star, I think. So yeah, now this is fine. But the error covers way too much. So when it's here, it should point at the end of it. So let's do that. So if we are missing a space, let's say that we're missing white space followed by allow list. And we can use this same message also down here. Okay, so this is gonna make it clear that our error is covering the wrong range. Missing white space followed by allow list. I mean, actually it's not bad, but let's point at the end. So Um, start is value.span.end -1, I think. And then we end at end. Let's see how that goes. Actually, no, now I remember it. It's end. We want that to be like this. Okay. This should now point at the end before the quote. And it does. Let's put a white space. And now again points at the wrong thing, but it's saying missing allow list. So let's change that missing allow list should also point at the end. So it's basically the same system. But this is in the case that there is no space, right? So this is what we changed, this case here, which is fine. Okay. But if there is a space, then things go out of whack. Why? Missing allow list. So we see spaces and then we end after spaces. This is the same problem. So missing allow list, we should always point at the end. Yeah. Oh, but look at this problem. So this is wrong because this is wrong syntax. So you know what? Never mind. The problem is that if this is missing white space followed by allow list, this should be -1, I think. Some cases don't have to do this, so these ones are fine. But this one, and I think this one, no, this one not. This one and actually it's that's the only one for now. Okay. I wouldn't even say that. I would say that to the end. Why are we actually pointing here? Because the dot or like an underscore should make this fail sooner. Wait a second. We are allowing 09, AZ, AZ, and continue. And so we break. And then we were looking at it. This needs to be a space. Oh, there you go. Because, okay, so this is pointing wrong. It was fine for the simple case, but the more general case, this is not it. So we need to base this on pause. This is value.span.start plus pause up to the end. Check it out. Now it complains, starting from the dot. Yeah. Put a space. Invalid value for this attribute, missing allow list. No, that's not exactly true. This is like an invalid allow list. The problem is that it's this case here that I'm not handling. Yes, in this case, basically we move to the next space, or I think it should be space or semicolon. That too should be fine. Yeah. Okay, let's see. This should help us make a better error message, even though we are not implementing part of it. Missing allow list. Invalid allow list value. Okay, so these guys are doing validation, but now the value is wrong. So what is their main location? Start is going to be value span start. plus pause. No, this is plus start. This is plus pause. Okay, let's see. There you go. Plus 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 one. There you go. Wait, why is it complaining for none about none and source and company? What do you mean? Oh, because this is not. You know what? Let's do pause plus one right away. So that way I don't have to do the plus one here. There you go. There you go. Missing white space followed by allow list. Technically, what we're missing is the feature identifier, actually. So it should be like this. What's the name of that thing? Feature identifier. Really? Oh, you know what's missing? A plus one is missing. Invalid for this attribute missing white space followed by allow list. Wait, how did I fuck this up? Is that the fur? Really fucking that up? Hello, Maniac. Oh my god. Never mind that the fur. Hmm. We're definitely missing a plus one because at this point we are centered on this on the semicolon, and in allow list value, actually we do want to see the space unless we take that part out. Unless we take this out. Yeah. There we go. Invalid value for this attribute missing feature identifier, which is also given to us in the beginning. Perfect. Missing allow list star. Okay, we have it. We have at least most of it. Let's see what this guy has to say. Where's iframe? Can I see an example of allow? I can't see an example of allow. Eh. Oh, there we go. Geolocation star, geolocation self, space URL, because it's the allow thing that can be a link, right? Okay. Are those things like a geolocation part of a enum of some kind? Well, I guess we'll figure it out in the future. Okay, so we have it, except for URL parsing. Let's add to do here. There we go. Well, we're gonna need to do this at some point, but everything else seems fine. Although we should fuzz also that tiny parser. Description is there. I think I have everything. So aside from that thing that we're leaving as a future to do, everything else is done. So I'm gonna mark this element as done. So that brings us to 49. Also, I should not have done it here because this is not where we do it. It's in elements that we do this. So there we go. It's done. I jumped ahead because I wanted to do fenced frame, and so I thought I would do iframe first. But it turns out that actually fenced frame doesn't share a lot with iframe. Where is it? Fenced frame. Fenced frame has, well, okay, you know what? I take this back. It shares the fucking allow thing. So it shares allow, height, and width. So this is it. These are the three things that it has. So, well, you know what? We could do this. We could do fence frame and we basically steal that function implementation and everything else stays the same. Also, wait, it doesn't have source? Wait a second, it doesn't have source? Global attributes allow height with, wait, doesn't, where's the source? It needs to have source, right? I I don't get it. Are you like supposed to change the content with JavaScript? Permitted content none, but it is not void. So Chrome, Edge, Opera, so Safari, Firefox don't have it. Hmm. So is this something that Firefox doesn't want to implement, period? How does this work? It's just experimental. Yeah, it doesn't have source. It only has these three guys. I guess you're supposed to drive it from JavaScript. Huh. Okay. So I guess we can do it. We can add it. Mm, that way we get to 50. Okay, give me a sec. I'm gonna get myself some tea, and then we're gonna continue. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, fence frame, we were saying. Let's make fence frame. Do we put it next to iframe? No, separate file. Okay, iframe. Flow phrasing embedded interactive. Content none. Okay, attributes are allow height and width. Okay. Bit of a chunky description. That's fine. Okay. Okay, so that's it actually for fence frame. Fence frame is really done. I need to set up attributes, but we're at 50. Nice. Field set, field caption, figure, footer, form. Then a bunch of header stuff. Then input. Then a few others. But we're making progress. I mean, we're starting to have a respectable list of elements that are like fully complete. Not bad. Yeah. I think I deserve to sip some tea at this point. Field set. Field set. Let's see what's field set. Couple attributes. An ID attribute, so that's good. Disabled Boolean, so field are attributes don't seem too bad. Flow content listed and well, whatever. Where flow content is expected, optionally content model, optionally a legend element followed by flow content. So we need some custom content validation code. And then attributes, disabled form name. Are there rules for those attributes? No, there aren't any special rules for attributes. So we only need to write our own content validation function. And all we have to do is check if legend is the first child. And well, we want also autocomplete to be kind of cute with it. So we can do that. Also, we need to have legend as an identity. We haven't implemented legend because I think it's L. We're not at the L letter yet. First child of field set, first child of outgroup. If the element is a child of an outgroup element phrasing content, but there must be no interactive content and no descendant with the tab index attribute. Otherwise, phrasing content optionally intermixed with heading content. And it doesn't have attributes. Okay. So maybe we should jump ahead and implement this one since it's related. Before or after, though, field set? Maybe first field set and then the other one. Either way, let's start with field set. So we have to do custom content validation. Who do we steal this idea from? I think details has custom content validation, doesn't it? Yeah, so let's copy details. Okay, let's see. Field set is flow, and then what's flow? Flow in, flow out. Okay. Then custom validation, yeah, about attributes. Disabled, form, and name. So disabled, name, and then form. Form is not empty. Name is not empty probably. And then we need to figure out the description. Let's copy all descriptions and then we go to the implementation. Okay. Okay. Name associated with the group. Okay. So these are the attributes for this bad boy. So we've done everything. Now we need to do the logic inside. So do. Optionally, a legend element followed by flow content. So this becomes legend as legend. So we keep going down. We don't skip anything. Well, yeah, we should skip text and comment. And then we say if the child is legend, if has legend, then it's a duplicate child. Otherwise, as legend becomes this. And if it's not the first child, we say wrong position. This should be first. Perfect. This logic is actually coming in real handy. Otherwise, if it's not flow, then we complain. Beautiful. Holy shit. And since it's optional, we don't complain if the legend is missing. This is delightful. This was basically already coded. Okay, so now here we need to do something different. So instead of has summary, this is has legend. Um, So this would work, but we want something different, I think. We want... Oh, you know what? Actually, we don't do the offset thing. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do the offset thing. We do just the legend thing, and then we let the error drive this. Okay, you know what? I'm actually fine with this. Okay. Let's use the same implementation. Let's do the same implementation that we did the other side. That's it. We're done. This is field set. Let's build. There we go. $51. Fig caption. Oh, no attributes. Flow content as first or last child of a figure element. We'll worry about that once we get to figure. Which is actually probably the next one, yeah. In any case, we'll worry once we get there. This is easy. I'm gonna copy EM. Okay, so fig caption, we were saying categories non-content model flow. That's it. No attributes, nothing weird. Copy the description and we can go to the next one. That's it. Empty set. 52. Next, figure. The figure we already know that has more rules. So either one fig caption element followed by flow content, or flow content followed by one fig caption element or flow content. So why do they allow it also at the end? Like, why can't they do it like they did with every other element? When there's like a legend, a summary, a thingy of that kind, you put it at the beginning. But no, in this case, it's either at the beginning or the end. Why? We have no fucking clue. No fucking clue. The spec was written to the code. Probably, yeah. So we want content validation, and guess who has content validation? Fieldset has content validation, so that's going to be our template. If you could be annotated before or after the image, yeah, but you could say that even in a some details that has a summary, the summary then could be put at the end or at the beginning, and either way would be fine. But they don't do that. It's just it has to be at the beginning. So for this case, they instead decided that they allow it also at the end. It I I think it's just that it makes the spec more complicated for no real tangible benefit. Like I sincerely doubt, like I'm positive that it's if you can do it with other elements, then you can do it also with this case. And maybe you could say that sure, occasionally there might be some convenience in being able, not for rendering purpose. Oh, I see what you mean now. Sorry. That is a fair point because depending on where you put it, you're naturally deciding if it goes on top or at the bottom. With summary, it doesn't work that way. I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, that's probably why they do it. Thank you. Okay, let's see. No attributes. Take attributes out. Then flow, 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 flow. Perfect. Then this rule here. Oh, but before we implement it, let's finish copying stuff. In the example, you can put the caption in both places. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have the description. Now implement the rules. So how do we do this? So if we find feed caption, the idea is we need to write down if it has a feed caption. I'm gonna call it FC. Then we complete it. So duplicate here if it's different than first or and child the next IDX is different than 0, then it's a wrong position. But here's the problem. We don't have first, second, I guess first or last. I guess. More than once? What? What do you mean more than once? No, it's only one and not both. Yeah, you can interact with example code, but what is your point? Like, if your point is that if you change this and then it renders the thing multiple times and it works, that's like a different story. Yeah, like if your point is that you do this and it works, that's fine, but it's still an error. The spec doesn't allow you to do that. Hey, Giacomo, thank you for the raid. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the HTML stream. We are at 52 elements out of 115, and I'm about to, thank you, have a nice day. And I'm about to implement auto-completion for Fig Caption. Although, you know what? This is going to be easy. Has FC. It's Fig Caption. Also, I noticed an error from field set. I forgot to update this summary. Okay. So there we go. So with this, we have implemented figure and need to update some names. Figure. Empty set. Okay, do we build? No, we don't. Oh. There we go. So then start this. Suggest figure caption. Invalid nesting under figure. Uh, a second one, it's a duplicate child. What if I put a div after? Remove the first one. Element in wrong position should be first or last. We can do better also. So wrong position. There we go. Actually, you can do it like this. There you go. And if there is one, we don't auto-adjust it anymore. So you can put it here, you can put it here, but you cannot put it in the middle. And if there is a second one, it's a duplicate. And if we put it here, then the other one becomes a duplicate. So happy with this. Cool. So we are done. So that's 53. Let's go. Footer is gonna be easy. Form is gonna be a bitch. I can already smell it. I can already feel it. No, font, no, footer. Yeah, footer is gonna be super nice. Doesn't even have attributes. Yeah, making progress. Let's see. Oh no, look, content model. Flow content, but with no header or footer element descendants. So there are some rules. Simple ones. That's fine. Should we copy figure? I'm gonna copy figure for this. Okay. So we're saying flow. Yeah, flow. Let's copy this. Okay. And then let's copy the main description. Copy. Okay, footer is done. Validate content. Nothing to track. All we have to do is say, we have to check it if it's flow content. So text and comment, we skip because they're fine. And if we say switch child.kind, if it's header or footer, that's an error. Otherwise, we continue. And this is it. So what do we append in valid nesting? We don't provide a reason, honestly. There's no point. Main location is the child span, non index, blah, blah, blah. That's it. That's the whole thing. Just no header or footer. Oh, wait. If it's header or footer, we complain. Right. This is, it's unfortunate because this is not a switch. This is an if statement. Oops. Okay. If child, okay, let's put the conditions in here. So if child.kind is .header or child.kind is .footer or child.model.categories .flow, but not, then we error out. That's how it is. Okay, what's your problem now? There we go. So if it's a header or it's a footer or it's flow, invalid nesting. Okay. While here, I think we can just call simple completions. We don't have to do any check. Simple completion. Is there any prefix? No. Content is going to be footer. The model.content. But forbidden ascendants is going to be this. There we go. Right, parent reject, but we don't have any category that we have anything in particular against. So there we go. So very simple. Very, very, very simple. Empty set. Description is in place. Checking is in place. Maybe we should test it. So flow content means the span should not be allowed. Actually, span is flow. I don't remember. What is something that isn't flow? I don't know, like meta. The problem is meta that we haven't implemented meta yet, so that's why it's somehow allowed. God. The problem is that everything that is phrasing is also flow. So there is no phrasing that isn't flow. I don't know. Link? Did I do link? No, we're at letter F. So I think that link is also not done. Of course. Yeah, fuck, I don't have a good example. But so at completion, we do see header in the auto suggestion. That smells bad. And we see footer. Something is going wrong. But I should complain about it. Wait, it does not? Wait, did I did restart. Wait a second. Wait a second. Something is going wrong. What is going on, man? Well, you not save element? Yeah, I didn't save element. God damn it. Okay, validating under footer. So what about meta? Link. Yeah, I just haven't implemented them yet. So what about doc type? Syntax error. Wait, how do you do doc type? I forgot already. Okay, let's see auto completion. There's no header. There's no footer. Okay, I'll take it. $54. There you go. So form is going to be nasty. Then we have these guys. Then we have HTML, which has been started but hasn't been completed because it doesn't have the done comment. And then we're going to have input, which is another one that's going to be fun. KBD should be easy. Label, legend, LI, link. And then a few more. Let's see what form looks like. Oh, man. Form. Oh, no. Look at how many attributes you can give to form. Fuck. Although, you know what? A good chunk of them we already have implemented for button. Yeah. So a good chunk of those we already know about. Like, for example, method we have, action is a URL, enc type we have, target we have. Flow content, but with no form element descendants. Oh, you know what I just realized? Wait a second. I misimplemented footer. So you see how I made a function that all it does is check that you don't have header and footers? Guess what? This is actually not custom validation. This is simple validation. Yeah, this is so simple that it's actually not something that I should implement myself. This is implemented in simple. This is for with the children. Wait, what's no, okay. Simple. There you go. That's actually how it is. It's even less code, man. Yep. And form. Honestly, you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to skip form and continue with some of the easy ones. I don't have the energy to start form from scratch right now, but I do have energy to continue one of the easy ones. So yeah, let's skip form temporarily. And let's move to the rest of the stuff. So what do we have that's easy after form? We have all the H thingies. We have head and then header. So head is not simple. Header should be simple. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not simple. But if it's like footer, it should be simple. Yeah, look. Flow content, but we know header or footer descendants. It's literally like footer. Beautiful. Actually, maybe this description even works like this. Let's see. That's it. $55. Let's see how complicated is H group. It might be something for tomorrow. H group, content model, 0 or more P elements followed by one H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, or H6 element followed by 0 or more P elements, optionally intermixed with script supporting elements. You know what? I think I have it in me to implement this one. Let's do it. There's just some content model stuff, nothing crazy. So we can implement it. And I think we can steal code from Figure for this. So H group. Okay. Let's copy. So flow heading palpable. Content model. Content model is basically none because it has a very precise list of things. Although it does allow spans, but that's fine. Sorry, P's, but that's fine, I guess. I'm going to leave it as none. We'll see. So we have that. Let's copy the description. Okay, validate content. If you could, what percentage complete would you estimate this is? Well, you know, we have this, which is not bad of an estimate. Also, will it work with things like Angular, HTML, or Jinja type stuff? No, it won't. Not work with special elements, but work with the vanilla HTML parts. No, it won't. So here, okay, so here's the more complete answer. So this is an estimate of how many elements I'm missing to add to it, and then there's a good chunk of work of like generic things to do afterwards. Although I'll say this is the real slog, like this is the painful part. After this is done, the rest is going to be much faster to look into. So even though it's not strictly correct, this is it. Like this is the slow part, and I'm roughly halfway through. As for working with other stuff, it won't really, because it would need me to add specific support for it. Because, for example, you will have stuff. So Angular, I'm not sure, because I think that Angular, I don't use Angular, so I can't speak with full certainty. But what I've seen from Angular, it seems that it's mostly bland stuff. So maybe with Angular, yes, after I do look into it. Jinja, no. Jinja is bad. By the way, I gave a talk. So you see here zinssg.io. If you go on this website, this is my static generator, and you look at my talk here, like I gave a talk where I specifically talk about this shit here. Like, if you do this shit with Jinja, man, like, what do you want me to do? Actually, this is very tame because, you know, you could even say, well, you can just ignore the curly braces and then everything works out, and it does. But, you know, people are gonna sneak these thingies inside their attribute definitions, inside their attribute value definitions. It's a mess. Like, it's a soup of unstructured metaprogramming. The whole reason why I started this journey is because I find these templating languages like just not good enough for me. And so, for example, like this language server that I'm making is for vanilla HTML, but Super HTML as a project is actually a templating language. Again, you can use it with vanilla HTML. You don't have to use the templating language part because it's like a different file extension. So if you launch the LSP with a normal HTML file, you're good. But the whole point of doing this is because I wanted a templating language that could turn this into not insane stuff. So my templating language basically scripts inside of elements. It basically has all the scripting, the logic part written inside of elements, and it respects HTML structure. For example, you see this is an if attribute, and so if the if is false, then the body of the element doesn't get rendered. If the if is true, then it does, and you can use it for pref and next, for example. So I mean, no, I get it. Obviously, it would be nice, right, if this thing also worked with stuff like Jinja, so that more people could get more mileage out of it. But like this whole thing started because I feel like that this is an intractable problem. Like these curly template languages, it's a design decision. The fact that this thing is unstructured, it doesn't respect the HTML structure, that is a design decision that has catastrophic consequences. And so the whole thing that I'm doing here is rewinding that decision. So yeah, this is the main point. One thing that I will do after I'm done with this is write documentation so that people can find ways of embedding Super HTML in more systems. You know what? Maybe I'm honestly even open to the idea. Not today, not too soon, but because I believe that, for example, in Django you can plug in a different templating language. So what if we make something that allows you to use Super HTML with Django? At that point, you can just opt into this whole idea and say, well, you know what? Well, fuck Jinja, and let's have a good LSP. Let's have you know, a templating language that isn't insane. Also, I don't have it yet, but I plan also to add support for auto-completing these logic stuff. So to the LSP. The goal is to have a good developer experience around all this stuff. No problem, Jake. Okay, either one free caption element followed by flow content. Wait, I copied this stuff in H group, but now I have to implement the H group rules, which are these. Copy. Okay, 0 or more p elements followed by H1. So we have like a state here. So var state enum p prefix followed by one H element. So let's call it heading, and then p suffix. And we start in p prefix. You know what? Let's just omit the p part. Just prefix, heading, suffix. Okay. And maybe we'll see once we get there. I think I'm gonna need another support variable, but that's fine. So prefix, heading, suffix. So keep looking at children. Do we skip text and comment? Well, no, we don't, because those, well, we can skip comment, but text is a problem because they have to be P's. So we skip comment, and then we say, okay, switch child.kind. Actually, switch state. First, let's see what we are looking for. Okay, so we're in prefix. We switch child.kind, and if it's P, we're happy. We do nothing. If it's a H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, we continue to heading. We can even do this. State. Okay. So in heading, state is heading. What about duplicates though? It's only one H. So either here we look at the next one, or we do this. If we need a support variable. Optional span, we say if heading. So if we have a heading, then it's a duplicate attribute. Try. Duplicate child, sorry. Duplicate child. Now, I don't remember if it's, yeah, it's a struct. So span and reason. Span equals H, the first child. The reason, I don't think we need to provide one in this case because there can only be one. Oh, you know what? Let's put the explanation. Why not? Reason. So I'm putting the explanation because it's headings that count as duplicates. So like it's not just that it's, oh, you have two H1s and you can only have one. No, it's like even if you have an H1 and an H2, it's still duplicate. And so let's give it a reason to make it more clear. Only one heading element allowed. Okay. Main location is child.span. Child index, and else heading equals child dot span. So there we go. So here we're dealing with heading. Then we're missing something though, because we're missing the switch. So we're missing switch child.kind. So this is it's this case. Yeah. If it's a P, we move to suffix. So state equals dot suffix. So we're missing an else case. Okay, and this is going to be like error reporting, like in this case. So suffix case, switch child.kind. If it's P, then we're good. Else, this is going to be the error case as well. But you know what? I think it's worth having in this case special handling in the case that it's a heading, so that we can give a special error message. It's still going to be an error, but we can be more precise about it. Which could be even this same message, like we just say, well, instead of a duplicate child, we say, actually it is a duplicate child in this case as well. You know what? Yeah. Should be like this. Yeah, try errors append, duplicate child, heading dot question mark. Because if we're at this state, we have to have passed here. So this works. Okay, what about other cases? Other cases is going to be simpler. I'm going to copy this, but then adapt it. So this is going to be invalid nesting. Span is going to be parent span. Reason is going to be only P and headings allowed. There we go. And we copy the same thing in here and in here. Boom, boom, boom. None of this stuff. Okay, so with this, we should have good error reporting. Now there's this completion completion stuff. Let's do this. If true, return an empty list for now, and this is H group. Okay. Let's try it out. Hey, proper bug. Attribute to H group empty element. So we're in here. Okay, build. Let's see how it works. Start the LSP, H group. Okay, P. H1 in here. Make another one. Duplicate child. Only one heading element allowed. Okay. Put it right after. That works. That works. What if it's an H2? Same problem. Duplicate child. Only one heading element allowed. Well, actually, that's really it, because you can put it at the beginning. You can put it at the end. You can put it anywhere in the middle as long as there is another one. You're good. Let's test without a suffix, without a prefix. So yeah, this works. Now we have to deal with autocompletion. So how do we want autocompletion to work? I guess the idea is if there is no heading, H and P's. If there is a heading, only P's. That's how it has to be. So we don't need this. We do need some of this stuff here, maybe. Instead of has FC, we want does has heading. And we do this. Switch child.kind. Okay, so this is whether it has heading, and then we say um, const list. Actually, we can even do this. Return. No. Const list equals it's a slice of const ast dot completion, and it's a list that contains uh, p. You know what? We have some logic somewhere to do this. Mm, 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 mm. The problem is that there's a bunch of like H elements that are annoying to do manually. Where do we do this with meta programming? I do not remember, man. Data list? No. DL? Let's see if you have amazing memory. You have good memory. Yes, I did do this here, but I have another system somewhere else. Although I don't want to do it this way. So this way it's because I couldn't turn it into just prefix and suffix. So let me show you what other thing I have. Call group field set figure button canvas H group details. Hmm. No. Okay. So not this one. Not this one. Too complicated. I don't think it's this one. Yeah, I have to implement it even. Not this one. Not this one. Not this one. Not this one. Oh, I might have called it just completions. Hmm. Not this one. Not this one. Not this one. That's the one that we're implementing. Details. Not this one. Okay. Function completions. Data list out of video HTML. A field set button canvas caption. This is rules. Okay, let's ignore rules. Rules is the old generation stuff, and it's all wrong in many ways. So not this one, not this one, not this one, not this one, not this one. Not this one, not this one, not this one. Wait, was it really div? I think it was div. Yeah, it was div. Okay, this. So all is going to be P followed by all these H guys. That's one. Well, that's 7. Coincidentally, it's still 7. This is all the metaprogramming that basically turns that into an array of these things. Then we do this. If has heading return all 0, 1. Otherwise, return all. Perfect. That's it. That's it. We have it. $56. Let's go. Can we do horizontal ruler? Probably we can also do horizontal ruler. Shouldn't be too bad, I think. Flow content, select inner content elements. Oh, you can put an HR inside of select. That makes sense. I didn't know that. Let's see, where flow content is expected is a child of a select element. We'll worry about this once we get to select. Content model, nothing because it's a void tag, I believe. Yeah, no end tag. And that's it. So HR is basically free. Let's go get this free element. Gotta catch them all. Should we copy EM? I think we can copy EM for this. But I should stop copying that thing. Okay, so HR, go to EM, copy everything, go to HR. Okay, HR, 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 we need a description. So what is it? Flow content. None. Meta, just flow. Attribute static content model. Copy the description and we are done. Pam, pam, pam. There we go. $57. We're at 57, man. So input, that's another one that's gonna be nasty, I think. We can take a peek, but I don't think I have it in me right now. Input is gonna have a bunch of attributes. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So, well, I mean, okay. So this is just like a list. It, it definitely has attributes. Also, these attributes depend on the type of the element. All except URL, email, and password. All. This is gonna be fun. Oh my god, how many fucking attributes has this thing? So input is gonna be an adventure. Input is going to be an adventure. You know what? I think this is gonna be it for me. It's already kind of late. I am running out of energy. I'm in all honesty, I'm getting a bit fatigued doing this, but so I don't want to overdo it because I don't want to burn out. But yeah, we made progress, and we did cheat a little bit, right? Because we skipped some of the hard ones and we just consumed one of the easy ones. But it's fine. It's also like a form of energy efficiency. So we're getting there. Basically, it's just the second half of elements that's waiting for us, and then we're gonna be done. Then have this branch. Keep in mind that it's completely broken, but yes, I do have a branch. So the repository is called super HTML. So this is the repo. I have a branch called nested errors, but it's not super up to date. But you know what? I'm gonna update it now. Okay. So there you go. You have the latest and greatest if you want to. Although keep in mind that, you know, all the missing elements means that it means that this is not really usable for general purpose documents, because it will complain about things that are actually fine simply because they are just not implemented yet. So be aware of that. But we are getting there. We're definitely getting there. Run tan tan. So thank you for keeping me company. And I think I'm gonna call it a day. Like, is anybody doing Zig? Nobody's doing Zig, so yeah, I'm just gonna shut down the stream. Thank you all.